Battle systems are the lifeblood of role-playing games. Without committing to tactical conflict, there's little role to play. The battle in Battle Network makes itself evident by providing what could potentially have been a fantastic combat sim. Your main actions are split across dozens of cards, to be dealt randomly atop a 30 high stack. Sequencing your chips between the aleatory hand you're given offers an instant quinary choice that can continue to branch depending on the quantity of suits, and that's only the middle step of operations. Allocating your arsenal to fit appropriate encounters divides your priorities over thoughtful limitations. Damage dealt, elemental property, the range, quantity, startup delay, activation conditions, terrain conditions, code type particularly groups wildly wavering weapons. These puny tin cans could close the gap in your sequence, possibly squeezing extra digits off your opponent before entering the next turn. Like spreading the final morsels of jam. The engagement phase is kept simple and quick, only requiring basic positioning and dealing the cards. It's the importance of timing when chronologically fitting your battle hand in response to oncoming attacks. If all steps were efficiently executed, then you can reap greater rewards from swifter successes. Later sequels would introduce more forms and counter opportunities, but as far as the base battle system goes, I think the combination of poker-esque showdowns, deck building, and real-time board gaming allows for some solid strategy. Health restores to max after each battle, which means foes are intended to take you down in one go, rather than whittling your resources over time, which makes sense considering the emphasis on discord. Enemies maneuver, attack, and behave in generally strange patterns, like these homing flame waves, or escaping to the ceiling. Bosses equally operate with gimmicks you're required to strategize around. Just to name 3 S-lettered examples, Sharkman hides between 2 invulnerable decoys that can dash into you whilst concealing his health bar. Skullman uses the bones to haunt your side of the grid so he can line up his otherwise easy to dodge fireballs. Stoneman summons stones offensively and defensively as he remains safely away from stronger sword slashes. Their variance in activity extensively guides your approach to parrying the weird flex with your own hustle. World exploration wise, fighting more uncouth foes is expected the deeper you descend into the net, along with granting access to stronger cards, zenny stashes, and even armor. Formerly fought bosses torment certain corners as ghostly replicas that can ambush you. Repetitive random encounters are still enticed since duplicate rewards can be recycled for a potentially new linchpin. Progressively, your arsenal increases without outgrowing the limitations of deck capacity or code typing. Even if you hack the game to start with every weapon, it's the enemies that dictate your timing and tactics. Though it is strange that this dinosaur child down the block still has to authorize admittance for you. This eco-friender vendor can be challenged a quarter through the game, and has been gatekeeping the entire back half of the net, accepting to battle at this stage as expected results. Despite the digit difference, you can still catch up offensively. The question is, where can I grab some flame attacks? This intuitively feeds back into exploration to find likely appliances that would accommodate heat viruses, utilizing our real-world knowledge of everyday electronics, devising effective use of the contemporary setting. There's the coffee machines inside the nearby complex, or your mama's oven, which are both connected to the internet. If you win, these new sub-areas have additional conditions just to be able to progress, and most of your damage cards haven't even scraped the 100 mark. For me, this is where the game peaks in challenge, along with the engagement truthfully. Unlike the succeeding titles, there's no aesthetic difference between zones, which can lend an eerie atmosphere, like you've exited the game and are venturing through the digital outskirts, beyond the boundaries of the web. No narrative reason to be here, so it's strangely lonely to hear your operator repeat commands from a distant time. So, am I saying Battle Network is the internet GBA equivalent to Breath of the Wild? No. Anyway, this game has some interesting mechanics that collide well with each other, though reluctantly there are issues regarding balance. Commonly critiqued is the code type's distribution. Categories like C and E have more options compared to I and Q. R-type has less than 20 cards in its group, and they aren't particularly remarkable either, just like the game. Alternatively, G and S have cool crowd control options, which are great for general use and old school Pokemon fans. G, L, C, and E all have access to around 50 cards each, including every recovery type. W code is exceptionally worthless for only having one set of boss attacks, not even Wood Aura or Wood Tower. You can still line up the beneficial deck from the smaller code groups, though these cards could have been spread out more. Program advances are secret super moves performed by combining multiple cards of different variant and code type. Ability combination is a fantastic game mechanic, but here it's more of a missed opportunity. Majority of these combo attacks are just the same card, but with added invulnerability or increased usage, which isn't much help if you're aiming for lower deletion time anyway. Really, there's only 8 specific combinations, and their application is questionably varied. Lifesaver is the best recovery move, but it's locked on R code, which is already filled with many defensive cards, whereas Guts Shoot is incredibly easy to set up for the early game, and immediately deals 500 damage. These advances are kept secret for the player to figure out or look up online. It's just too bad that most of them just kinda suck, and that's if the randomness itself can present worthwhile opportunities for usage, leading players to stick to favourites. Plus, reorganising the folder to try a new strat can be a bit time consuming. All this said, I'm intrigued to see newcomers get into this series thanks to the upcoming Legacy collections. My beginner advice would be to take your time and experiment with the cards so you can develop your own playstyle, and if you're looking for a challenge, I'd suggest tackling the optional content as soon as they become accessible. Design-wise, the game provides peculiar solutions to dilemmas we often see in other RPGs. The battle system alone is worth checking out, even if it's comparatively simpler than the sequel's iterations. Goodbye.